Hi, this is Starr, and this is the introductory video to a series I'm going to produce over the next 9 weeks after today called the Enneagram and Religion, which is really meant to be a vehicle for spiritual growth. So it might help in other areas, typing, understanding others. It might even be a little bit entertaining, although that's not its primary purpose. The reason I'm here is to work and to help you work for your own spiritual growth. This series is religious in nature, but it's not specifically tied to my religion or any interpretation of any particular religion. Given my background, I'll draw on biblical scripture, but this fact should not and does not preclude or does it exclude people of any faith gaining value from this series. And really, anyone trying to grow closer to God in their thoughts and in their actions as they themselves understand the divinity should gain from the videos. So, to start with, there are 9 Enneagram types and therefore 9 main sins. Now, if you're only guilty of one of these sins, then congratulations. You are an exceptional individual and human being, most miraculous in and of yourself, just for that virtue alone. If you're like the rest of us, you're guilty of all of these sins, just to varying degrees. And I want to start with that premise because insofar as typing, there's a lot of other people out there who can give you help. You can take tests, you can get typed. But my particular theory is that, if you are looking for your type, the best way to discover it is to find your Enneagram problem, or otherwise known as sin. And my particular purpose in these videos is to help you interpret your particular sin that is the primary obstacle in your spiritual growth. Or in other words, where you are now versus where you want to be. As such, given this definition, given this premise, you could be different types in different stages of your life. Maybe when you were young, you were struggling with one particular sin. Since then, you've matured, but now you're struggling with this other one. I'm going to leave the specific typing to the other people. I think ever since I started typology, I've wanted to gain something from it. And I think I have gained something from it. I'm a very different person than I was when I started this journey nearly 4 years ago. And I think you can be too. And I think it could be crippling to get too stuck on one's type and going, well, this is my type. No, wait, maybe that's my type. And, it's a never ending battle. And in the spirit of pragmatism, I'd rather get straight to the point and say, how can this help me? How can this make me better? Maybe I don't know my exact type, but I know this is one of my main sins. Let's jump in, get to work, and see where it takes us. Now, as far as arguments go, whether this is part of your nature or environmental factors, I've addressed that in other videos, and maybe we can address that in a forthcoming video. But for now, this is behavioral in methodology. I'm not looking at the cognitive functions or trying to gain some sort of scientific insight into your true type. What my purpose is to say, what am I doing wrong? How can I fix it? With the purpose of growing closer to God, or if you like, for the purpose of your hero's journey or spiritual growth, or just being a better person. And I'm going to draw on historical examples, personal examples from my own life, and hopefully together we can find ways that will help us all. So again, for those stuck between 2 or even 3 types, or maybe you want to attack your problems through the tri-type prism, There's no reason you can't benefit from exploring any of your shortcomings. And really, if you had time, it would be beneficial to do the whole cycle, 1 through 9. Some sins you might have to focus on for a longer time than others. Some sins you blow right past because you don't really struggle with that particular one. But I'm sure something's to be gained from all 9. And if you're like most people, you have 1 or 2 or maybe 3 that you really could use work on. So with that in mind, our strategy for spiritual growth will be identify your primary sin, or at least the sin you want to start with. And then we'll take a look at these patterns again, historically, sociologically. Towards this end, I'll be sharing some helpful and most embarrassing personal examples, which will help expose the true nature of these problems. And if I use other people, I won't mention their names. But from that point, we can identify the problem, and from there get to work on healing the fracture in your life that this problem or these problems has caused you, that have sort of fractured your spiritual growth. Once you've improved sufficiently to feel like you have a hold on this problem in your life, then I would suggest moving on to another sin. It can be a never-ending work in progress, and that's not a bad thing. Spiritual growth is a lifelong learning process, and if we're making progress in the right direction, that's a great thing. Okay, so without further delay, I have my notes here. The following is a quick description of the sins of each Enneagram as I understand it from my 3 years of intense study in this system. I'm not going to go over a comprehensive typology description of each of these types. I'm just going to go down the list and identify each main sin and maybe say a sentence or 2 about it. So starting with Enneagram 1, which I have plenty of experience with. The main sin is anger. And that anger most commonly comes in the form of resentments. And resentments are toxic. They can hold you back from relationships, jobs, your relationship with God. Resentment is a really bad thing, and it's my main sin I'm struggling with to this day. Enneagram 2, pride. Pride in the form of importance, thinking that the world can't move without you, and you are indispensable to the people you are around. And it's a sort of counter type pride. It's like, you need my help, I'm the helper, what would you do without me, kind of thing. That can be stifling, because in that process one can forget about themselves, and pouring out for other people. If you don't love yourself enough, you're not going to be good for anyone else. Enneagram 3, deceit. Most precisely, probably self-deceit, losing yourself in the pursuit of success, thinking, if I achieve this, if I can do that, if I can make more money, if I can achieve this goal, then I'll find true love and happiness. And anyone who has achieved lofty goals knows better, but we'll get deeper into that when we hit Enneagram 3. Enneagram 4, envy. I like to say jealousy. This is the constant measuring oneself up against other people. What do they have that I lack? How come they're all having a good time and I'm sitting here in the corner? What am I missing in my life? Why can't I just be happy? And I think it goes without saying how paralyzing that kind of ill will towards others and yourself can be. Enneagram 5, it's not talked about as much, avarice, but really what that is a sort of selfishness, a sort of intellectual and existential hoarding of ideas and resources. And it really betrays a sort of lack of faith, not just in God, but of other people, the world in general. And unless you're happy being a hermit, locked away, holding everything to themselves, you would do well to overcome this sin. Enneagram 6, fear. I think we can all relate to that in some way. That's why Enneagram 6 is supposedly one of the most common types, although hardly anyone claims it. But fear, as we know, can be paralyzing. You can miss opportunities. You can, lack of trust can cost you at work. It can cost you in love. And most certainly it can cost you in your relationship with God. No matter what you have faith in, whether it's God, science, other people, a lack of it is really never good. Moving on to 7, gluttony. I think this can come in many forms, but the most common form is materialism, thinking that having this or that shiny thing or things is going to make up for the spiritual or emotional vacuum in your life. And we'll see later the more specific problems that can cause you and the people around you, and we'll see how to overcome that one as well. Enneagram 8, lust or intensity. Everyone tries to qualify it and say that the lust thing doesn't really mean sex. You know what? It kind of does. It does mean sex. And it can, of course, mean other things too, but if you have a problem with things of a sexual nature, then that would be a very good problem to overcome, not just for your relationship with God or your spiritual journey, but for your relationship with your loved ones, specifically a mate. Next, last but not least, Enneagram 9, sloth or laziness. I think everyone can be lazy at times. We've seen what that can look like at the other end of the spectrum with workaholics, but there is something to be said for the problem of sloth or laziness. A lot of times, days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, months turn into years, and next thing you know, a decade has got behind you, and it's like, what have I done with my life? I've just wasted it just kicking back, not doing enough. And we'll see how to kickstart your life and get it into gear and hopefully grow from there. So that's my understanding of the 9 sins of the Enneagram, and those are the ones we'll be focused on. And I look forward to making some notes for next week. We'll start just right in order with 1. Again, I'm not going to get into all the specifics of the typology part. I'll leave that to the experts. I want to focus on what I think is a need, and that is taking this information and doing something positive in your life with it. That's all I got for this week. Till next week, I'm out.